which is wild.
Yeah.
For two hobbies to be combined, and people who previously were not interested in either to be deeply connected to that book shows that there's something real in it.
Yeah, the plot has some depth to it. The premise, while being insane, I was not expecting it to be kind of like this universal metaphor or allegory.
So it's got these really dark, sadistic, broken characters and situations. Meanwhile, it's a comedy. It's like all jokes, all happy, and Carl is a hero.
Oh my goodness. That's one thing holding me back on book 2 is like, I don't want to read any more paragraphs.
That's hilarious.
Hey, I'm Joel.
And I'm Tripp.
Welcome to the Library of Many Lives, a show where we talk about books and story. Today we've got a good one, a juicy one. We're talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl, book 1.
Maybe the most hyped book I can remember people talking about in years, hyped series. I can't remember the last time that a book or a series was as ubiquitous as this one has been over the last couple years.
All over the place.
I mean, it is literally like what people say about Red Rising, how Red Rising is this book that even people who don't read talk about and are into. That is actually what I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is. It is crazy the number of people.
Dungeon Crawler Carl is like off the charts when it comes to that. I go into random stores where there's like a Dungeon Crawler Carl book stand and the store like doesn't even sell books.
Legitimately,
like, what in the world?
No joke. I posted that we were doing a video, an episode about Dungeon Crawler Carl, and an ex-girlfriend from high school who's now married messaged me and was like, this is what all me and my husband have talked about for months, is the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And I would have never guessed that she would have been into this sort of book or series. Like, she's a reader, but I would have never been like, oh, this is the kind of book she would read. It just is pervasive in a way that's unbelievable.
Wow. First, we're going to do a spoiler-free review, but in the spoiler-free, we're going to give our ratings, say who's it for. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a LitRPG book.
For people who don't know, RPG is role-playing game. So you're a character who's leveling up different attributes and skills in order to be stronger and better.
Yeah, and you've got video game type things like an inventory of items and skills and power-ups and things like that. So this story is basically a guy outside with his ex-girlfriend's cat named Princess Donut when aliens take over the earth and destroy like 90% of the population in a flash and then turn the entire earth into basically like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of dungeon where humans can go into the dungeon and try and like earn freedom. They come in with this crazy technology, and that technology is almost like magic. Carl is in the dungeon and is going to progress down all the different levels of the dungeon. So it goes deeper and deeper, and each level is like harder and harder and harder. And you know, you're running into bosses and enemies and getting items and things like that. Initial impression of that.
I immediately was interested in this idea of the combining of a novel or a story with some of those video game or tabletop gaming elements. And the idea of, you know, aliens taking over the earth, and the way they do it is they take all the survivors and they put them into a game situation and they're competing against one another. That all sounded interesting to me. I just got the sense that the humor was not going to be for me. Princess Donut, that name, you know what it makes me think of is like when we were younger, like preteens, like the LOL RAR girls that were like internet types that were like random humor.
Yeah.
That was the vibe it gave me. Internet, meme, Reddit humor.
I was also really resistant, but I was also intrigued because I love like Dungeons and Dragons and video games. You know, for people who don't know, like we have worked on video games and published stuff in the past. So the RPG elements of this had me intrigued, and I went in hoping that those things would win me over. That they would kind of like beat out the stuff that I was like more hesitant on. Like, I don't know if this is the styling of this is really for me. Was it what you expected it to be?
Yes and no. The humor was exactly what I thought it was going to be. There wasn't a whole lot of things in the book that were meant to be jokes that I thought of as like hilarious.
Did you ever find yourself laugh out loud?
No, I never laughed out loud. There were a couple times where I did that thing where you're like, huh, or like you breathe hard out of your nose, as like a placeholder for a giggle or a placeholder for a chuckle. But I never laughed out loud.
I think that counts as a laugh out loud.
I don't think so.
I think if a breath is exhaled with some kind of vocal audio, then that's a laugh. Like
what? No, you've never been reading a book and laughed like went back to reading.
No, it's always been something like you're describing, where we're like loud.
If you make a sound that's related to humor and that counts as laughing out loud, then yeah, I laughed out loud a couple times. But I never saw something that I was like, that was so clever or that was so witty.
There were definitely times where I laughed out loud, and a couple times it was from the AI, which the humor for the AI was not working for me. The humor in this book was definitely what I expected it to be, and was not into that. But there were a couple that hit for me.
Yeah, see, the AI was the AI you interact with in the text, and it's like what the video game world is instructing the player about something they found, a room they entered, a boss they're fighting, those sort of things. The AI was my least favorite part of the entire book in terms of the humor.
Same
and
here.
The things that made me laugh tended to be the relationship between Carl and Princess Donut. But I will say that I enjoyed this book more than I thought I was going to. Number one, the LitRPG genre has more legs for me than I expected it to. I thought that I'd be really annoyed and taken out of the story by it, but what I really left feeling was impressed at authors who do this and can keep track of things like stats, what's in their character's inventory, what buffs and debuffs they currently have.
I liked some of the LitRPG. I am interested in reading, I think, other authors' take on integrating like video game and Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I really didn't like it in this book.
I also think that the concept of this book was actually deeper and bigger than I first expected. Hey, there are these aliens that do this, and here's how they do it on every world, and here's what it looks like across the galaxy. I was like, whoa, this is deep and has a lot of potential. Yeah. And unfortunately for me, that's part of what made me not like the book, is because I felt like if this was taken a little more seriously, then it could be incredible. We'll talk about it when we talk to characters, but Carl's character and the way he's engaging with this world is actually much different than I expected. And you can tell that Matt Dinniman is actually drawing some real deep ideas and conclusions to the surface through the humor, through the slapstick, silly world. And I wasn't expecting that either, because I had not heard anybody talk about that at all.
The premise is, and like the speed at which you get dropped into that premise was really, really good. Yeah. So let me ask you this, and maybe we just figure this out together, but like, what would you say makes this book unique? What makes this book like special?
Well, number one, I know there's a lot of other LitRPG out there, but this seems to be the one that broke through first. So to me, that stands out, that it's a unique niche genre that has somehow connected even with people that don't read traditionally and also don't play video games, which is wild. Yeah. For two hobbies to be combined, and people who previously were not interested in either to be deeply connected to that book shows that there's something real in it. So it doesn't, my opinion of whether the book is good, I like it, almost doesn't even matter, because clearly Matt Dinniman did something special in Dungeon Crawler Carl based on the fact that he took two niche things, combined them, and people are connecting to it in a deep way. So I think that makes it unique. The tone is definitely unique. I have not read a ton of stuff that has this same goofy, silly, over the top sort of tone and atmosphere.
The bombastic, insane style with a really insane premise gets combined with unique, lovable, extremely strong characters.
Yeah.
He has created iconic characters. Like Princess Donut and Carl are... I would be so surprised if this doesn't get turned into like a television show or a movie.
I think it's already being made. I think there's already a show greenlit.
It's just the ideas there, the visual design of their characters, the personality, the kind of archetypes that they're falling into are so strong and specific that I can't even think of something that has this combination of characters with such a crazy premise. So definitely special in that sense. Like, I just don't know of another book that feels like Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Also, it has no rules. Like from page 2 or something, you're in the world and you quickly realize the author can do whatever he wants in this world.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that, but you're absolutely right. You literally never know what is going to be around the next corner in the dungeon. It could be any zany, insane thing that Matt Dinniman wants.
Yeah, weird combinations, and there's this idea that some of it's from Earth, but some of it's not, and so it's a game show, so they're pulling on the culture of Earth, but also pulling from the culture of the other aliens that are watching. It's a wild, no holds barred, throw everything into the pot soup of a story and world, and that's very unique. A lot of writers, I feel like more and more, the thing that people love in fantasy is like the Sanderson style of this is a closed world that has very specific rules and magic systems, and it's like scientific in the way that it plays out.
And there's like a tone and a like style to the world that writers feel like they have to stick to. Like they have to hit almost like the genre.
Yeah. And this is also something I'm thinking about. Matt Dinniman's story and world in Dungeon Crawler Carl is like the best parts of Grimdark and the best parts of Noble Bright thrown together. Like it's like got some of the happy-go-lucky stuff. Carl is someone you like and are cheering for and is doing good things. He's like doing moral things in this world that is completely devoid of those things. You know, like part of this world, you know, is that it's the morals of the intergalactic way of doing this dungeon thing that they do to different planets is devoid of morals. It's like it's all about entertainment. It's all about the money and stuff. And Carl is like pushing back against that. So it's got these really dark, sadistic, broken characters and situations. Meanwhile, it's a comedy. It's like all jokes, all happy, and Carl is a hero.
Yeah, the plot has some depth to it. The premise, while being insane, I was not expecting it to be kind of like this universal metaphor or allegory, capitalist, money-driven world, and grows it to a universal scale.
Yeah,
like life is, like you were saying, it's grimdark. Life is like completely devalued in this universe. And it's like everything is driven by advertising dollars, you know, people watching the dungeon, and like what Carl is basically like a reality TV star.
It is. It's an intergalactic reality show.
Yeah, to the point that he's like going and doing interviews and being pulled out of the dungeon where people are dying and stuff to like do an interview with a quirky host and when aliens and stuff. So it takes like something I think that a lot of people nowadays really hate, which is like dehumanizing of things and just doing whatever brings in like the views and the money, and then cranking that up to like absolutely universal with a super oppressive system. So it's hard to like not be rooting for Carl and Princess Donut. Like,
Yeah.
you're immediately thrown into, and you just latch onto that. You're like immediately thrown into the situation where you like want them to topple the whole system. And I have no idea if that's where it's going to go, because there's like, I don't know how many books there's
already
like 8 books.
There's already 8 out, and there's supposed to be 2 more. And that's one of the things that I can talk about this in a minute. That's one of the things that pulls me out, is I'm like, how can we do 10 books on this?
Descending through the dungeon plus the universe and all of the political and like, you know, organizations that are like vying for power and stuff like that, I think is a really rich world. Like, I absolutely think you could do 10 books.
I think you could. The problem I see is we just talked about how there's no rules and there's no, you know, streamlined thing. It's just wild and crazy. I don't know. I've only read 1 book. I could see it getting to a point where Matt Dinniman has a hard time reining it in, because it's gotten so wild and so just like, well, eventually the characters are going to be like gods through their powers and their abilities within the dungeon, you know? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes if we continue to read it. I hadn't decided if I will or not. Let's go further and plot some. I think you're right. I think that seeing Carl's character start to be affected early on by the morals of this world he's been thrown into, and trying to address those things in the dungeon was not something I was expecting.
One of the big things that affects him throughout the book is like how flippantly the like number of dungeon crawlers in the game ticks down, where it's like millions of people are like dying.
At one point, I think it's like 14 million or some high number, and it goes down quick.
Yeah, and so he's like watching that, and to him it's like odd to see just they're just symbols going down, but it represents human life.
Yeah.
You know, that's being like erased.
Well, that was one of the misconceptions I had, I think, going into the book, is I expected Carl's character to be a lot more of a bro, manosphere, right-wing-ish bro culture stuff and that sort of thing. And I could see how there's some stuff that could be seen as like bro humor, but actually the character of Carl, and it's seemingly Matt Dinniman, seems to not be anything like those things based on the morals that the main character is putting forward in terms of the direction he thinks things should go, you know, the things that bother him and get to him. And that was a pleasant surprise. Carl and Princess Donut are actually much better characters than I expected. And the plot that Matt Dinniman has them on has some depth to it that I didn't expect. Because when I listened to other people talk about it, like there's a podcast I listened to where the 2 hosts basically said there's nothing serious in the book, that it's all comedy, it's all humor, it's all, you know, slapstick. But then when I read it, I was like, actually, I can see some real depth here that it seems like Matt Dinniman's getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I will say, though, despite that, I wanted more. I wanted more
Interesting.
Of those quality moments. This was one of my complaints, was that I felt like the book was a bit anticlimactic. Like I was expecting this explosive ending, you know, where we could just do anything we want, right? Like we just said, you know, he can kind of write anything he wants into the ending. And it feels like that's not what happened. Like the climax was a really interesting character kind of growth decision type of thing that was happening. But it wasn't like a really explosive big ending. And I actually didn't even realize the climax was happening as it was happening. And then the book kind of just slides into book 2. Like,
yeah, all
right, well, we're just going to continue on.
And it does kind of just peter out. But wait, I have a question then. Sorry, I have a question. Did your book, you read the hard copy?
Yeah.
Did your book have the section at the end called bonus book 1 material?
Yes.
And did you read it?
No. No, I didn't.
It's like the best part of the book.
Is it really?
In my opinion, it's the thing that made me interested in reading more.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's the thing that made me be like, I might read book 2.
I was seeing it as like bonus material, as like not every version comes with this. So
I
I'm
have
like,
no idea.
This seems like it's not a relevant like piece that whatever. And I kind of skimmed and was like, okay, it's not about Carl and Princess Donut. And I think at that point I was also like already feeling like I wasn't going to go on and read more.
When I read the bonus material, it intrigued me and it bumped it up to like 50-50 that I'm going to read the next one.
Okay.
Because it isn't from Carl's perspective and it brings in a new element where you're like, oh, man. Yeah, for me at least. I don't know if other people feel that way. I don't even know if every version has it, but you should go back and read it.
But I don't think that it would solve the problems I think that I have with book one. So I could see it intriguing me, but it still just isn't going to fix these things. So one of the things I'm specifically thinking of with the plot, like we talked about it having a climatic ending, I felt like the book had a lot of plot threads and things that were teased as like, hey, this will be important later. Hey, this is going to come later. And then they just don't.
Like, what are some things that, can you remember things that are like?
There were a lot of things that go into the inventory that it was like, hey, okay, I got to remember I have this. Or like, for example, he learns that like the tables that he has are indestructible. A lot of things felt unresolved. A lot of things felt left on the table. And so I think I lost a bit of faith in like Matt Denneman's writing where I was going to get kind of payoff.
Yeah.
In a way that made like each book feel like it would be worth it to read. Like I really like when series and books, the book can kind of stand alone as a really solid entry, and not necessarily that the story ends or something like that, but that there is an arc and I think some payoff, you know, in each step of the journey. Like I think Game of Thrones does a fantastic job of this, where it's like each book feels like its own unit, but of course it's a part of this huge series.
Yeah.
This does not feel that way.
I wonder if that's part of or a function of it being a long lit RPG series. Because to me, what you're describing of things going in the inventory, but you can't use, like he doesn't use them in book one, feels exactly like what a game like Elden Ring feels like to me. Where you get loot or find something that you're not even strong enough to use yet. You know, like my Elden Ring character that I've been playing through for years at this point, because I'm so terrible at games like that, is a faith-based character, and I have weapons that are great for faith characters, but until I'm a certain level, they actually are worse than my garbage weapons that are for non-faith characters. So I wonder if that's part of it, is that some of the inventory is building up suspense of like he's hiding things away in his inventory that are going to come back in later books. Which is also, I think, part of why I wondered about how is this a 10-book series? Because my thought for this genre was that it'd be great for standalones, but the idea of a long series for LitRPG feels crazy to me.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. I think the long lit RPG, there are, you know, things in the inventory, there's leveling up, there's powers that are going to become useful. You get something and it's just that it was all that. And it's not just inventory. I think it was also relational plot threads and things. Yeah, and now that I think about it, like I think that the kind of nursing home plot was supposed to be this. I think it was supposed to be that you get some resolution there, that you kind of have something earned. I don't want to spoil anything. That was supposed to be it. I guess that wasn't enough for me, or didn't feel.
Well, it does feel like
that I thought it would.
Plot point is the thing that does the most movement for the characters in terms of what you think about them, how you feel about them, how you learn what they're really like in their morals, their character, the way they address issues. So I think you're probably right, and it just didn't pay off in the way for you that maybe it was intended to.
I think that the reason for that is I was actually more invested in the other pieces of the plot. That, like, the relationship with the other crawlers that I'm talking about, that was like kind of a conflict. Oh, or like the the relationship at the end with like the talk show host that you were describing earlier.
Yep.
Those two things felt like really good, big conflict things that were like sucking me in.
Yeah.
But we just got teased, and it was kind of like this nursing home plot is actually the main piece of this book, but I'm way more invested in the other two. And I don't know if I told you this, I did start reading book 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got like maybe 15 chapters into book 2, and I did it very quickly because I was kind of coming off the momentum of book 1. I was like, I was traveling, and I was like, I'm not really sure. I kind of needed something on the return trip. So I was like, okay, I'll start book 2. There's a lot of new things that are introduced, which is cool. But at the same time, there were things from book 1 that was hooking me. There wasn't any resolution, and then they weren't really present in the beginning of book 2. As it stands, I think I probably wouldn't go any further in book 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of plot, I think there's a chance that Carl and Princess Donut are iconic characters from this, decade or this, 2 decades period of time, and that they become recognizable and people engage with them in the same way that we see, people engage with characters from other major Hallmark series and shows and IPs. Those two specifically, I think, are done really well. He did a really good job, not just with their personalities and how they're connected, but I think it was a genius idea that I would have never thought of, because I'm just not this style of writer, to send Carl into the dungeon with no pants or shoes and just in like a leather jacket. Like that immediately sets him apart as like in an iconic way. Like
he's walking around in boxers.
Yeah.
And he's barefoot.
And when you and I have worked on video game teams and we've worked on characters and story arcs, so many times we've talked about character design being important to make them iconic, that when someone sees them, when they hear certain words and phrases, that's the character you think of. Like if I say the word plumber, so many people think Mario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way those things work.
If you say boxers, you immediately think Carl.
Yeah. And there's not what other
or donut.
Character?
You say donut, Princess Donut, and it's like immediate.
And right now, that would be for people who have obviously read the book. I do think these characters are the kind of characters that have the potential to become iconic in a broader sense if the show is done well and those sort of things. And actually, funnily enough, the two characters' personalities and their interactions actually reminded me a lot of the characters that are on my wall back here. Skeletak, the game that me and you were a part of, the interaction between Scully, who is the skeleton, and Ember, who is the bat, they are very back and forth, bantery. Ember is, this kind of sarcastic, silly, doesn't ever take anything serious. And that's the vibe that Carl and Donut have. And so it immediately endeared me to them because it reminded me of relationships that I've seen in other things that I've experienced and witnessed. It was
while still being wholly unique.
Yeah.
Because I think the element of Princess Donut being Carl's ex-girlfriend's cat.
Yeah.
And it's not even his cat.
Yep.
It is wonderful.
Yep.
And also she gains the ability to talk when they go into the dungeon. And she has all her memories of like being a cat with Carl. So they have all of these experiences, and it makes for this really interesting kind of weird dynamic between them where she's like, yeah, you remember this time that I was like on your lap and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it's kind of like it's the exact kind of thing I think pet owners they've done that before. Like they relate to that idea of like, what if my dog could talk to me and tell me all the things that they've like seen me doing or whatever. And then of course Princess Donut is like incredibly sassy.
And thinks Carl should basically worship her.
And considers herself royalty.
Yeah.
And when she's not just like she doesn't just become talking, she becomes like talking with a huge intelligence boost. So she's actually like technically like
and
more
charisma.
Intelligent than Carl. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those characters are great, but I think the side characters are good too. Very intriguing. You interact with some characters who are a part of the dungeon network, a part of the intergalactic reality show that they're in, but also were crawlers, were in their own world's version of this game when the alien
like
species came to their world. And so that like engages you immediately and makes you want to know more. And the characters that are, humans from Earth that you meet and interact with are done really well and are engaging and interesting. So I think if somebody said, what's the strongest element of the story, characters would be one or two for me. It would be one of those two things that I'm like, this is part of what wins people over. Yes, the story hooks people. Yeah, the idea is unique and interesting. I think what pulls people in is they love Carl and Princess Donut. 100%. And I think the other characters are pretty strong too.
Did they win you over to get past the like humor and especially the AI and stuff that you like weren't into? Like, would you keep reading because you want to see what happens with Carl and Princess Donut, or even just to like spend more time with them?
No, I don't think that those characters will make me keep reading. I'm not invested in the sense of what's going to happen to Carl. The thing that makes me think I could see myself reading the next one and seeing how I feel is that I'm interested to see how deep on some of these concepts does Matt Dinniman go. So it is a funny story and silly and wild, but there's enough serious stuff that I'm curious, how does he do this? How does he pair this? What does he do to continue to peel back those layers and unearth some of the more serious stuff that is clearly at play here underneath the surface of this wild, wacky video game world?
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that would draw me forward. I like Carl. I like Donut. It's the premise still. Like, I want to know more about this universe. I want to see, like you said, peel back the layers, see more of the depth of the ideas he's exploring there when it comes to capitalism and advertising.
And I like the idea of
reality
an author.
TV and morality.
Yeah. And I like the idea of an author writing with no rules. Like the closest author I've ever read to that is Stephen King. Some of his stuff, the turns it takes, the decisions he makes, you just go, oh, this guy doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks.
Yeah, that happens a lot in The Dark Tower. Where I'm like, whoa, okay, I could never have predicted where this series was going.
There's a couple things in The Dark Tower.
Like Wizard and Glass?
That I can't mention. I can't say this is what happens because it'd be a huge spoiler. But when it happens, the very first thought I had was, I would have never written that. Like, I would have never, even if I'd had the idea, I'd have been like, that's stupid. But Stephen King just doesn't care. He's like, this is what I'm writing. I think Matt Dinniman's world has freed him up. He can do whatever he wants in this world, and it will make sense within the confines of the world. So I want to know, what does an author who's writing from a place of no rules and no expectations for what the world looks like, what does he do? I will say the thing that we haven't talked about yet, well, we've mentioned it, but we haven't talked in depth about it, that pauses me is the style. I just don't think the writing is amazing or all that great. I think
the actual prose.
Yeah, I think the prose reads pretty middle of the road, which I usually don't care about that. I'm not somebody who's like a purple language person. It's got to be prose heavy. But the combination of middle of the road prose, not always engaging in terms of the sentences and the paragraphs and the writing style, alongside the LitRPG elements that are this high slapstick, silly element that also is coming into play in a way where it's separate from the characters. It's like this almost disembodied voice type of thing that you are reading through sometimes multiple times a page. All the elements on their own I could live with, I could get with. I think it's the combination of the elements that I'm not sure is for me in a way that's going to let me read the full series.
I feel exactly the same way. Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. It's written very simply, very straightforward, which I think on the one hand makes it incredibly accessible. I think it's part of the reason that it's so popular is you can pick it up and it's not this super flowery language. It's a fast, easy read. Like Carl basically describes and says it how it is.
Yeah.
Carl's the narrator. So I agree. The style itself isn't very interesting to read. It's more about the story that's being told rather than how it's told.
Yep.
Descriptions of things aren't very interesting to me and so on. Like I wanted more poetic, interesting language and description. I don't know how that would work with somebody like Carl who's telling the story because that isn't his character.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
And I also think it'd be hard to write in a world like this with flowery language. Like you and I both just read Something Wicked This Way Comes, and that's like a crazy prose heavy book. Yeah. It's beautifully written by Ray Bradbury.
But it definitely would not work for
right.
this.
Imagine that style of writing within the world of Dungeon Crawler Carl. It just wouldn't make any sense. You'd be lost. You wouldn't know what was happening.
No way.
So
but with that said, I wanted more from Dungeon Crawler Carl. Like
I don't even need prose. I need more emotional language, I think. I think that's what's missing for me. You get a lot of the brass tacks from Carl, and you get some emotion, like he feels angry, whatever. I wish that he would say the material things of the world exactly how they are, but when talking about his inner world and engaging with his emotions, that it was a little bit more flowery, a little bit more dynamic prose, because that's the thing that's missing, I think, for me, is that even though it's real stakes for Carl, even though it feels heavy and crazy, sometimes it reads like he's playing a video game.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's really living this stuff out. He's really has the chance to die around every corner.
Yeah.
And be gone forever. But the tone is not always of that. Yeah. It's a similar issue that I brought up in our episode where we talked about
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary, where it's like the jokes and the tone don't fit the real experience of the characters, and that sometimes throws me off.
We actually argued in that episode a bit because I think that's what makes Project Hail Mary and Dungeon Crawler Carl distinct. It's the marrying of these really high universal stakes for both of those books with the more silly, zany humor and a tone that's often more lighthearted, though it can get darker and deep at times. But here's a series that's very similar in its premise that does not have that tone, and it feels completely different. Squid Game. That story is very similar. It's like you're trapped in this game. There's people watching who totally devalue life, but oh my goodness, the tone of that show is the opposite of this. It's heavy, it's dark, it is not funny. They're processing it. It is emotional. I wouldn't want Dungeon Crawler Carl to be that.
Right.
I like that it is silly, but I think what you're saying is like when it does get more serious or it does get more emotional, it should lean into that more.
Yeah.
And the prose reflecting that would help a lot.
Yeah.
Another place that the style wasn't working for me, and it has to do a bit with the prose, was the LitRPG elements. I really did not like how much observation of basic items and description of those basic items there were, and then they just get tucked into the inventory and disappear forever. Oh my goodness. That's one thing holding me back on book 2 is like, I don't want to read any more paragraphs.
That's hilarious to me.
I picked up the lamp and it's made of metal and it has these properties and and then there's like a little pithy remark. I'll put it in my inventory for later. Oh, and then I also opened up a new loot box and it had 5 torches. I opened up another loot box. It had this. I opened up another loot box. It had that. Too much.
Dude, this is hilarious to me because for our entire friendship, you've been more of a RPG video game player than me. I hate that experience of like, I have to check every box. I have to look at everything. Yeah. And then in my brain, I have to keep straight what this herb is used for at the crafting table and what dungeons to check in. And then I could randomly miss the best item in the game if I just don't go in this one spot.
Yeah, or hit this one wall that you didn't realize had a crack in it, and it reveals a chest behind it.
And it just feels like in a video game like that, even though it's about the combat and the bosses, what I end up doing is spending tons of time thinking about where do I go to get this item? Once I get the item, what's it good for? How much percentage? Is it better to put this ring with this sword or this, gauntlet with this thing?
It's different when you're doing it. When
Yeah.
you're searching the chest and getting items, that's very different than like reading a paragraph in a book about them opening a loot box that has torches.
Yeah.
It's taxing to me to have to like read about them doing it. I'm not actually doing the action. But I think that the lit RPG elements shine when Carl is doing stuff with items that are creative.
Yeah.
Those parts are great. When he's like building bombs
Yeah.
and weird contraptions and attaching things, that stuff's awesome. It's just, I think that focus on that. Like, lean into the lit RPG elements where it's important and where it's interesting, and lean out of it in the places where it's not. Like, oh my goodness, there's just
what's annoying
way
about
too
it
much
too is there's
stuff.
several times where you read the description and you understand what the item does, but then the character explains to the people around them what the item does. So you actually read the description twice.
Yeah. And maybe if you're like really into the AI humor, you would be more into reading those pieces and like kind of laughing, but that humor just wasn't for me.
That was my least favorite part. If they took out all of those bits, the book would be better for me. Like I would have enjoyed it more if the AI didn't do the zany, silly stuff that it does. Now, here's something interesting that I've heard. Now, when me and you first decided to read this, you had already read it, and you said, don't do the audiobook. I think you'll experience it better. Yeah. Dude, everyone I talk to says this is the best audiobook they've ever listened to.
No, I think Project Hail Mary is the best audiobook
Have you listened to Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I read it. I started it physical.
All right, I need your opinion on this because this could be an Instagram clip because people love it.
Yeah, and then I started listening to the audiobook intermittently just, because we would be doing stuff and I wanted to like keep going with the story. I hated the audiobook. I hated it. It definitely made it a lot worse.
People are gonna hate that opinion.
So let me say this. I'm not saying it's bad. And if you're into it, that's great. The voice for Princess Donut was not it for me. I think just what I was imagining and hearing in my own head worked a lot better. And so then to give actual voice that didn't really match that was one thing that was like really taking me out. I was constantly like, now if I'd started the book maybe just audiobook, then I would have always heard Princess Donut's voice in that way, and I wouldn't have be getting something that's like competing in my mind. So that was one thing. I really did not like the AI voice. It was
people love the AI voice. People love it.
No, it's just so
people love it.
No,
I haven't heard it, so I don't have an opinion. But I've seen multiple people be like, "This book sucks if you read it, but if you listen to the audiobook, it's amazing, and the AI voice is awesome."
No, the AI voice is just like this kind of like annoying talk show or like game show host voice. And it okay, if you didn't like the humor, the kind of like crazy humor of the AI, imagine having to listen to it as well. Like it enhances the craziness of it and the like over the topness of it even more. And so like you and I don't really we weren't into that. So listening to it, it was like 2 times more.
Yeah, it's like taken to 11.
Yeah, and it was like anything that this voice says to me, I'm going to like find annoying.
People are going to hate this opinion.
I know. Might be my least favorite audiobook I've ever listened to.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping up this section, I think that the style in general doesn't work for me. I could see myself continuing forward out of a desire to see what the author does within this world, how deep he goes on the concepts that do intrigue me. It's hard for me to believe that I will read the entire series because it feels like a lot to do that many books of this style. That just feels like a lot for me. So I don't know. I might give book 2 a go and then go from there, but it's up in the air for me on if it would work for me long term in a series.
Okay, so did you love it, like it, didn't like it, or just not really for you?
I just liked it. Like, I actually can say that my hater goggles were on a little bit too tight when I was thinking about this book prior to reading it.
You were like mad at me that I like bought it for you.
I was annoyed. I was like, I can't believe I'm being forced to read this because it had become one of those things that I was almost not reading out of principle because so many people kept telling me to read it, and I felt pretty sure it's not the style of thing that I'm gonna like. But people kept being like, "Nah, you would get it if you read it," and I was like, "No, I'm telling you, it's not the kind of thing that I'm gonna like." And I was wrong.
Okay,
I did like it, but I was right in the sense that it's not the kind of thing that appeals to me in general. So
it won you over enough that you would say, I liked it.
Yeah.
And there were things in it that you really liked.
It won me over enough to be
but
like, it
not
was good.
Not enough for you to be like, I'm going to read the whole series and I love this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not.
Wow. Interesting, because I'm the opposite.
Interesting.
You went in mad at me that I bought it for you and forced you to read it because of our competition that we had. I went in, I think we're going to like this. Like the humor, and I have all these reservations, but people keep telling me, you've got to read it. It's going to win you over. So I went in with the expectation, like, actually, this thing is going to win me over. I'm going to end up really liking the LitRPG and all these elements. It did not win me over. So there, for love, like, or didn't like, or not for me, I'm going to say there were pieces of it that I really liked. There were pieces of it that I really didn't like. And so overall, I'm going to say not for me.
Yeah.
It might give book 2 a try, especially if you decide to pick it up, if you want something that's like a lighter read. Then I potentially will do that one.
Yeah.
Also, now that we've had this conversation, I'm intrigued. Like, are these questions that we have, or these concerns, or these critiques, like, are those going to potentially go away if we like kept reading? Like, does it get really deep? Are there tonal things that kind of change? And does the writing get better, like the more that he writes? So now I'm kind of like, maybe we also do book 2.
Yeah.
Come back around, and then we have like a really, like solid stance on like, I know 100% whether or not I'm gonna like finish this out or not. Because I think right now we're in a little bit of a gray area. We're like,
can you though,
I
like
don't know.
in a series that's going to be 10 books long, can you have a solid idea of the whole series and if it's worth it 2 books in?
That's true. You could always like lose, momentum if things start going downhill. I just think that post book 1, you and I are kind of like, I don't really know, but we potentially would read book 2 and be like, we have a more
here's the
whole
thing.
complete view of it.
I liked
or at least
it.
of its style.
Yeah, I liked it, but it's not for me. I don't think of it as slop. I really don't. I just think that this one isn't for me, but that doesn't make it not good. It was good. I did like it. I don't know that I liked it enough to read another 9 books in this world and in this style. So we'll see. I probably will do at least book 2 just to test the waters further and go from there. But yeah, that's kind of where I landed on it. Let's do who's it for and who's it not for, saying like it's for people like this, it's not for people like this. But then you should let me tell you about the bonus material and see how intriguing it is to you.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so let's do who's it for, who's it not for, and then I'll tell you about bonus material.
Yeah, and this is going to be a bit of a summary, I think, of all the things we've already talked about. Who would you say it's for?
I think it's for people who like mashups of different things. It reminds me a little bit of like the way I felt about Ready Player One in terms of the world, where once you go into the AI of Ready Player One, there's anything is possible. Any enemy, any style of clothing, any weapon. So if you like very eclectic, wild, varied settings, Dungeon Crawler Carl's the most of that I can think of in book form. So it's definitely for people like that.
I would say that this book is for people who love cat memes.
Oh, yeah.
If you're like a cat meme person, Princess Donut absolutely delivers, and the relationship between her and Carl feels like a meme.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're literally on a reality TV show. Yeah, if the relationship between Princess Donut and Carl and that kind of silliness is intriguing you, and you're the kind of person who could get really attached to those kinds of characters and want to experience like a journey with them, I'd say that this book is probably for you.
Yeah. If you're someone who wants to read a book that is lots of action, lots of fights and battles and constant movement, this is definitely for you. The book doesn't slow down. There's no period of time where they're resting because they're injured or they are, the video game element in that way works really well, because even when Carl or Princess Donut gets really bad hurt in a fight, they heal using potions, or their body heals the way it does in a video game over time, and bam, they're right back at it. So it's very quick paced. So if you like an easy read that you can get into and get rolling, then it's super easy to get into, and the chapters are pretty short. So you fly through it once you get going. So for someone looking for a read like that, this is for you.
Yeah, if you like zany sci-fi, so, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or like Doctor Who, stuff like that, maybe even some Star Trek where it gets a little bit more silly, I would say this book feels sci-fi. Mm-hmm. It's fantasy, LitRPG, all this kind of stuff, but it's definitely sci-fi. It's universal. It's like universal scale. It's galactic conflict. There's aliens, governments, other cultures. It's very Doctor Who.
Yeah,
very Doctor Who in its tone.
Yeah.
So this would be for you if you're into like Doctor Who.
Yeah, this book is for you if you're someone who is irreverent, and I don't mean that in a way of like you say crass things. I mean, if you're the kind of person that can make a joke about anything, nothing's off the table in terms of, oh, that's sacred and you can't joke about that, or, that's like off limits to poke fun at. I think this book is for you. This book makes light of almost everything within its story and makes a joke about all sorts of different things that I think some people would be like, well, I don't know that I would have chose that to make a joke about. But Dungeon Crawler Carl is about the jokes for sure.
I would say that it never really gets into a place though that's like deeply offensive.
No,
like I don't think it's crass in a way that's like repulsive.
No.
Maybe there's some little pieces here and there that people would find too much or like too dark or but I wouldn't say overall it's the kind of thing that's overly intense. Okay, right. Who's it not for?
It is not for people who are looking for high-level prose, flowery purple language.
Yeah. It's also not for you if you like want something that's more serious.
The only other thing that comes to mind that I would say is not for you, if you don't like descriptions of battles and fights that are video game in their nature in terms of the gore and the effects, then probably stay away from this one. It's like action-packed, bloody fights and boss battles and stuff like that. So it's definitely got, it's got like bathroom humor. It's a pretty, not gross in the sense of like disgusting, but the descriptions of the battles include some, gore and blood and even like excrement at times. If you have a problem with language, if you're someone who's like, I don't want to read cuss words, I don't know how many of those people are out there, but there are definitely some. All right, so let me tell you about the bonus material since we're kind of undecided on whether we'll go to book 2, and then you tell me if that inspires you to read book 2. So the bonus material is not from the perspective of Carl and Princess Donut. It's from the perspective of one of the goblins that they interact with early in the book. And so the goblin that they interact with, that they trick into going after the llamas, the goblin asks, where'd y'all get the drugs? And they said, we got them from the llamas. And so they went after the llamas. And that's when you first see Carl struggle with what they're doing in the dungeon because they blow up the goblin chieftain and there's all those little kid goblins.
Terrible. Actually, like, struggled with that. I was like,
yeah,
Princess Donut, if Carl and Princess Donut, like, continue with this kind of stuff, I'm going to, like, not be able to keep going with them as likable characters.
Carl immediately is like, this is awful and terrible. We didn't know they were in here, you know, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's from the perspective of one of the goblins that left, and then when they came back, they found the chieftain and all the kids dead. And the goblin is saying things like, how do I keep going? I don't know that I want to live in this world anymore, but I am no longer a number. Princess Donut gave me a name, because Donut calls her names two goblins, Lorelei and Rory, after the characters from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And so she starts going around and starts naming all the other goblins, and they give them all names. And then some other leader in the video game, in the world, we heard his name, Damien. We heard his name like at some point.
He was like a manager.
Yes. Damien contacts them and is like, y'all killed all the llamas. Y'all know y'all aren't supposed to go after other groups unless crawlers are with you. I'll be there soon to talk about this. And she tells him that her name is Rory. And Damien says, did you just give yourself a name? Okay, something, and cuts the feed. And the goblin realizes that he's sending a kill crew to wipe out all the goblins. And so they create a trap, and they end up killing the kill crew that comes to kill them. And so it's like the characters in the dungeon, the goblins, are gaining a new level of sentience and awareness of what's going on, and they are starting to push back and fight back against it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it says part 2 will appear at the end of the second book. So it's going to be like a little after that gets continued.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like it's its own just little sub-story.
Yeah, but I think it's going to connect back in at some point, because she's like, how am I supposed to feel about the fact that Princess Donut is who gave me my name, and I thought she was different from all the other crawlers because of her charisma. She like talked to me and I loved her, but she also killed the chieftain and all the little ones. So I think it's going to cycle in at some point, but that really intrigued me, because I was like, oh, if members of the dungeon stop fighting against the crawlers, what will that mean? How will that change the game?
I could see myself reading more of these. I could be into it.
Yeah.
I think I would probably start doing what I do in actual video games, where I'm like, open loot box, open treasure chest, CCC, boom, move on.
Yep. All right, we can wrap it up. So tell us what you think. Are we crazy for not loving Dungeon Crawler Carl? Is Joel insane for saying it's the worst audiobook he's ever listened to?
Did I say it was the worst I've ever listened to?
You said it might be the worst audiobook you've ever listened to. You said that.
Yeah, it is the worst audiobook I've ever listened to, I think.
Just triple down. You're like, did I say that? You know what? Yes, I did say that.
I remember really not liking the Iron Flame audiobook. Are we crazy? Did you love Dungeon Crawler Carl? Should we keep reading it? I think that's the big question that I want to hear from people.
Yeah.
Like,
does it get better, or is it stay at the same level?
After Dungeon Crawler Carl, we're wanting to start to build like some book club community stuff, and maybe have people like voting on what we're going to read next, and maybe like reading it with us so we can, finish it at the same time. Maybe we'll do like a month long or something, and then at the end we do a review, and people can also like contribute to that.
Yeah, what should we read next? But what's like the thing right now that you think you should be reading this?
Yeah, and a couple of the things that we're considering, Dune Messiah, Yesteryear seems really interesting and is very popular right now. Piranesi, Assassin's Apprentice, which is supposed to be a fantastic fantasy series. And if you've got more, let us know.
Thanks for watching. You can find more episodes on YouTube. We do full episodes and key takeaway videos. So if you don't like the long form, you can see a shorter version of the episode. And of course, there's always Instagram, where you can catch us posting reels and interacting on there. Yep. All right.
Cool.
See you next time.
See ya.